But our focus this morning is on Modi's budget test, as we are calling it. That's right. This is the first big budget of the Narendra Modi government. Can his Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and the Prime Minister deliver the budget that many hope will kickstart growth? This is the big opportunity for Narendra Modi and his government to really, in a sense, reinvigorate the economy. Those are the pictures that are coming in at the moment as we speak from North Block, where the Finance Minister has arrived. Arun Jaitley is there at the moment. We'll be going to our correspondents there. But before that, as we play these pictures, I want to introduce you to our special panel today of experts who will be looking in the first couple of hours as we head into that at the 6 big challenges that are facing the Finance Minister today. Surjit Bhalla, Chairman of Oxus Investments and someone who always has a mind of his own, would perhaps want to be the Finance Minister himself, but cannot be, and therefore is with us here analysing Jaitley's budget. Gurcharan Das, author and a corporate man who will tell us exactly what his views are, someone who's written extensively on the need to open up the Indian economy long before it was opened up. Dr. Sanjay Baru, also author, economist, former Press Secretary to the Prime Minister, now fellow at Centre for Policy Research. So someone who has a unique perspective of being in a way an insider, if I may be allowed to use that word. On my other side are Meera Sanyal. She is of course with the Aam Aadmi Party, but she's wearing a completely different hat. She is here in her capacity as someone who's been a leading banker and someone who's been with the corporate world for several years now. Ajay Jakhar is a farmer leader, and we called him in because we are often accused of only bringing in the men in suits and not those who are connected with rural India. He will give us the perspective of rural India and farm India as someone who's been taking up their issues for a long time now. And Manishankar Iyer, who is a Congress backbencher, as he sometimes likes to call himself, member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha, but again is someone who follows the economy very closely and has his own strong views as a good old Nehruvian socialist, is the best way that we can perhaps pitch Manishankar Iyer today. Thank you all for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. The first big challenge, as all eyes are on Arun Jaitley's budget. We're going to look at all these challenges one by one. And I want to pose the first big challenge, which is Make in India. This entire concept that Mr. Modi has pushed of Make in India. Will this budget really translate that Make in India campaign that aims to make India a global manufacturing hub and create jobs into a reality? And I want to raise that with our panelists. Is that what you expect from the budget? In our pre-budget debate yesterday, we seemed to suggest, Gurcharan Das, that this was, Sanjay Baru's words, last chance. Someone said big opportunity. Is this the last chance, big opportunity to translate rhetoric into reality for Mr. Modi?
Well, it has to be. It is the preeminent priority of India. The time is the ripest it's ever been. And the country has a narrow window of opportunity. We forget that we think that we are a young country, but in 10 years we'll be an aging country. And if in these 10 years we do not take advantage of creating these 1 million jobs a month, and if we do create those 1 million jobs a month, what will happen is that we will get a kicker of a couple of points of growth. And that means that we will be in a virtuous circle for the next few decades.
It's interesting that you're saying we have a small window of opportunity. There you have Mr. Jaitley, and we'll continue to carry on as those pictures. Mr. Jaitley with Mr. Jayant Sinha, his Minister of State for Finance. Both of them, in a sense, making their debut. I know Mr. Jaitley did that budget in July, but it was a bit of a disappointment, many believe. This is an opportunity. If that was a disappointment, many believe this is the big opportunity. Let my producer now come back to the picture that we are getting here. Sanjay Baru, are you sticking to what you said last night, that this is the last chance? Here you've got Gurcharan Das also saying it's a small window of opportunity. Is that how you all both see it, that this is a small window of opportunity? And what is this sweet spot that we keep talking about, what the economic survey says, that this is a sweet spot in a sense for the Indian economy?
You know, in many ways, it's a sweet spot. Economically, your oil prices are down, energy prices are down, inflation is down. Expectations remain positive despite the fact that Mr. Jaitley's first budget in July disappointed many of us. You know, the kind of push we expected was not seen. And yet, the fact is that right now, expectations about India are still positive. The feeling is that this government is in a position to do things because, as you mentioned, it has a majority in parliament, and despite the hurdles it faces. But it's also a sweet spot in kind of geopolitical terms because India today actually has good relations with a large number of countries around the world. And many people around the world expect India to perform better so that it offers opportunities for them. Finally, it's a sweet spot because the numbers, as you know, you mentioned and Surjit mentioned yesterday, are looking positive. I mean, there is investment numbers are picking up, fiscal deficit is going down, inflation is going down. So for a variety of reasons, this is a good opportunity. If we waste this opportunity, I think the reason why we call it a last chance, I mean, I think Arvind Subramaniam said in his interview on the economic survey that in democracies you never have a big bang. But that's not factually correct. You know, the fact is that if you don't do it right now, expectations about India will change. And once your expectations change, you know, it's difficult to recover those expectations. It's like what we saw during UPA 1 and UPA 2. UPA 1 expectations about India were extremely positive. But the mistakes made after 2010 on policy turned expectations negative. So even when Chidambaram started kind of rolling back from all the mistakes that Pranab Mukherjee made, nobody gave him credit.
You want to also say, go along with your thesis yesterday? This is a big chance, big opportunity. You know, if it is not seized, then they won't get another chance. Next year, as I said, is a big election year. This is not, the government has 8 months where it doesn't have to worry about an election, and that doesn't come too often in an Indian election cycle.
I would phrase it as follows: if not now, when? Okay. I mean, in that sense, this is where everything has coalesced into a fantastic opportunity for India first, and secondly for the people in charge. And I think the third point on this is that basically Modi was voted in precisely to deliver growth. So counting all of these things in, inflation down, this, that, whatever, make in India, what we want is for India to meet its objective, to meet its potential, to meet its destiny. That means growth.
So the first target is job-driven growth. That's the target. You know, how do you move from and you said yesterday you could even move to double digit. You said even 8% is if things, you know,
if things stay as they are.
Things stay as they are.
Yeah.
Okay, we've heard the
which incidentally is what, interesting enough, in the evening I read, Arvind Subramaniam had said the same. So maybe the economists think alike.
Okay, the interesting part is that the positive right-looking economists are all on my left. Let me get the other side of the picture. Are you as optimistic, Meera, as the left side of my table is today?
Look, Rajdeep, I don't know whether optimism is the right word, but I'm certainly very hopeful. I think, as has been said, you have the political headwinds in favor of the government at this moment in time. You certainly have the economic headwinds. You've got this massive bonanza from oil prices. You have the stock markets which are favorable. FIIs are looking at India favorably. Inflation seems to be heading downwards. It's all moving in the right direction. If you don't use this opportunity, it would be a tremendous waste. And I cannot imagine that the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister would let this go. So in their own self-interest, political and economic, I'm sure we're going to see a big bang reformist budget.
Okay, this is the first time that word big bang has been
further than I would.
Okay, you know, that big bang word, I'm going to come to that in a moment, but Mani, you want to inject your traditional note of skepticism into this sort of euphoric panel that I have at the moment this morning?
Yeah, till now my objection to Make in India was it was ungrammatical. But now I also wish to object.
Yes.
That all these expressions of optimism are being given in an economy where 50 to 60% of our population is employed in agriculture, and a much larger proportion of our population is in rural India. And there the growth rate has been recorded at 1.1%. If you want to make in India, first make in rural India. And what you should make in rural India is agricultural growth. And while we have attained a certain level of self-sufficiency, which was the original objective of Nehruvian socialism, at least in agriculture, there is still such a large number of human beings in that sector and such a palpable failure on the part of industrial growth to actually absorb this additional labor available in the rural sector, owing to the model of jobless industrial development that we seem to have branded as our own, that unless and until the budget demonstrates a real will to have enormous public sector investment, public sector capital formation in the rural sector, I don't think any of these fancy figures will translate into goodness for the ordinary human being.
You know, given that, and I'm glad you've injected your note of skepticism, otherwise we'd be purely euphoric about this budget all the time. But Ajay Jakhar, let's translate that into reality. What Manishankar Iyer has said. Yesterday you had Surjit Bhalla on my program saying one of the challenges and one of the things he'd like to see is free up agriculture. You know, we've spoken of tax reform, industrial reform, trade reform. What about agricultural reform? Do you want agriculture to be made competitive in this country? Free up agriculture, is that the challenge? Would that be what, let's say, the farmer today wants?
Yes, the farmer wants a good price for his produce, and I think so. The basic first question you asked was Make in India. The Make in India is not just in rural sector. Make in India is in agriculture. Let's tax imports and let's incentivize production on the farms, and that's the key. You might, and as a farmer, I think we don't need big ticket reforms. And I don't think this is the last opportunity. It's just that the next opportunity, next budget becomes more difficult to achieve what we want to achieve with every budget. And I think we need very, very small changes in what already exists.
But a survey that I think your organization did, they said 70% of Indians want to move away from agriculture. 70% of farmers and their children want to move away from agriculture.
I disagree with my own survey. I think 99% want to move away from agriculture. But we should not move them away by land acquisition bill. We should move them by giving them opportunities of the farm. And the only way to make farming profitable and making farmers prosperous is to get jobs for rural youth off the farm. And that's the key to it.
Let's look at this whole challenge. No, but isn't that the whole challenge?
I would agree with you. That's exactly
what. There's a contradiction. I'm sorry. There's a contradiction. Here he's saying he wants basically the farmers to have free up agriculture, have a good price for them, etc. Certainly not above international prices, but let's go with that. And then you say that, listen, we can't have the land acquisition bill. Listen, for 66 years, and I don't want to get political in this with it, but most of the time it was Congress. We've had zero reforms in agriculture. Part of the reform package is the land acquisition bill. Why shouldn't a farmer be allowed to sell what he wants to sell?
No. Let me just.
Listen.
No. So
let me finish. I'll just finish.
No, you can't be allowed to finish on this.
You can't be allowed to finish. So I can't be allowed to finish.
Just a minute. Okay. I'm going to. We want to go. I'll come back to this issue. I for a moment just want to focus on Make in India. You've said it in the context of agriculture. I'm also going to say, in pure facts, 10 lakh Indians, young Indians, are coming into the job market every month. The challenge for Mr. Modi, and the reason why he was voted, was in the belief that these 10 lakh Indians would be provided jobs. Presumably, any budget's success today will be determined by its ability to kickstart the investment process, to kickstart infrastructure projects, so that productive jobs are created. Would you agree with that, Gurcharan Das? For much too long, we've not judged budgets on that very simple criteria. Does a budget create jobs?
Sorry, yesterday, judging the performance of liberalization for the last 25 years. Every time I come on your program, I stress this.
Yes.
That what you call growth, or what most of your panelists call growth, has nothing to do with employment.
But we could talk about the 70s and 80s and pre-liberalization budgets as well.
May I just explain that?
Yes.
For getting larger employment, you need employment-intensive growth.
Yes.
Employment-intensive growth is generally in agriculture as well as in very, very small-scale industry. Also, of course, in infrastructure. Now, there has been a hesitation during this period of liberalization for the public to invest, for the public sector to invest in these activities. That is why capital formation in agriculture has been so low ever since we transferred the responsibility to the private sector. And now, therefore, I would judge this by the extent to which it is able to promote activities that will actually absorb your 10 lakh people, rather than attempting to simply build up the ability of capital to generate profits for itself.
I don't think I don't think it's a binary sort of debate whether agriculture or manufacturing or small scale or large. India needs investment. Period. Yes.
Why?
I wish money.
Well, just a minute,
I wish money had studied economics 1. The reality of the fact is,
sorry, what was
the
that?
reality is,
no, but this is very unfair. I have studied economics, and I am a gold medal winner from Delhi University, which is more than you are.
well, you certainly must be.
Yeah, go ahead,
But
Gulshan.
by God, you got
Let's
it
not
wrong.
get personal. Let's not, no personal comments.
Right.
Let's focus. It's a serious.
A neighbor of mine
Yes.
came yesterday to my house and said exactly what money did.
Yes.
And I had to explain to her that our experience shows that 1% growth rate, if you add 1% growth rate to the economy, it adds 1.5 million jobs. Each job creates 3 indirect jobs. That means 6 million jobs, 60 lakh jobs. Each job supports 5 people. That's 30 million people get gainful employment, not the rubbish employment of Nariga, real jobs.
So you're saying it's about growth. It's about adding 1%, 2% growth. The moment
there is a
Mr.
direct-
Jaitley's
there is-
target should be 8.1, moving on to a double digit.
Rajiv, that's not the only issue. Since you're talking about Make in India.
Yes.
The question is, I entirely agree with Manishankar Iyer that employment generation should be the main focus of any economic policy in a country like India. The question is, why is it that Bangladesh today has become a better base for textile manufacturing, which is an employment-intensive manufacturing activity.
And outside of the rural area.
And it's outstripped Gujarat, Mr. Modi's home state.
Exactly.
Which was originally the base of the textile
What is
industry.
it that Bangladesh is doing to make it more attractive for businessmen to invest than India?
Not the land acquisition bill, definitely.
No, 1 minute.
It's not about, see, don't get, point is, the point.
So we're coming to ease of doing business. You believe that one of the challenges for Mr. Jaitley today is he's going to have to send out a signal to Indian business as well as foreign investors as well as anyone who wants to do business in this country. We will make it simpler for you to do business.
And it's not about the corporates. It's not about the corporates. I know several first generation small scale business persons. I come from Andhra Pradesh, which is the home of first generation enterprise. You go and see the number of young people who want to get into business but are terrified of getting into business because all manner of blocks, administrative and various constraints. I wrote a column recently. I was in China, visited a textile mill where the manager of the textile mill told me she has to only deal with 4 inspectors for environment, for health, for workers' safety, and for tax. 4 inspectors. Find out from any small businessman in this country, small scale entrepreneur, how many inspectors he has to deal with. That is what is ease of doing business.
Do you agree with that, Meera Sanyal, that in a sense, and Mani, I'll come to you on that. I don't think that's why I said that this is a conflict situation. Ease of doing business should be ease of doing agriculture. It should be ease of doing setting up a small scale industry. It should be ease of setting up a service sector company. We have far too many inspectors, far too many rules, far too many procedures, far too many ministries. Do you agree with that? This is an opportunity for Mr. Jaitley in a sense to send out that message.
And I think Sanjay is absolutely right. The slogan should not be Make in India. It should be Make India more competitive. Grow in India. Let the tiny micro entrepreneur flourish. Because, I don't believe, I think Manishankar Iyer is completely right. Creating 10 lakh jobs in industry is a far stretch because modern industry is not by and large labor intensive. But you can create 10 lakh entrepreneurs. You can create 10 lakh solo entrepreneurs. You can create lakhs of agricultural entrepreneurs. We are fundamentally an entrepreneurial, innovative nation. Let's make it easier for everyone to do business, whether you're, a big, massive industry or you're a tiny fellow.
Can I just come in? This talk of we create entrepreneurs, couldn't agree more. But at the same time, we don't want farmers to be able to sell their land. If they want to sell their land, That's entrepreneurship. Let them do. I have a suggestion for you. And actually, on this show, you head a farmers organization. You'll do India a great service. You'll do farmers a great service. If you did a survey of what the farmers want, rather than asking politicians.
He's done one. He did one.
On land acquisition.
He's done that on land. And I think
what does it say on land acquisition? They want to move and they don't want to sell their land.
No, the land acquisition challenge perhaps is to get the state out of land acquisition. Very worrying is that the state is forcing the farmers at times to sell off their lands, often to build private hospitals.
Listen, the land acquisition bill that we have, you're misphrasing it, says that before any land can be sold to any
Can we get back to the subject? You see, because he has got his hobby horse, this land acquisition bill, and it's quite is wrong, which he keeps riding every time and destroying the integrity of the argument. I wanted to say, I've been wanting to say, that for once in my life, I agree with Sanjay Baru. I agree with him entirely that it depends upon where the growth is located. If we were to follow the Bangladesh example of putting it into small, light industry, that would be terrific. But if we are going to have just one word, the question that you asked, do we want growth? I want growth in the right place. It's just that I want growth. I want growth in the right place. And growth in the right place ultimately is intimately connected with the short-term gains in employment.
Gurcharan Das says, sorry to interrupt, the moment you have a 1% growth rate, it will automatically result in jobs being increased.
He takes a macro figure which does not take into account net employment growth. There has been a huge amount of disemployment caused by capital intensive and technology intensive industry. What I want to see is a pattern of growth where the public investment goes into engendering those activities beginning with agriculture, where there is ample growth. And when the disagreement I would have with Ajay is that his is a farmers organization and mine is a Khet Mazdoor oriented mind. And the two interests are not necessarily.
Can I ask you, what is the one thing that you want as a farmers organization today from the finance minister? What would you like to see him do today for agriculture?
I think so. We met the finance minister, we met the chief economic advisor, and we told them that we don't want more allocations like everyone. What we are saying is where you allocate the money is important. That's what you discuss with us, where those small allocations go. And I would say if there's one place he needs to put his money, that's extension services. And coming to the growth, which means providing farmers the knowledge and converting that knowledge into a practice on the farm. And just coming back to growth and job creation, I think so when all the economists talk about growth, they talk about GDP. And let me give you an example what GDP is from the farm. A tractor has an accident, the GDP of this country goes up. And that's not how you measure growth. So every kind of growth is not...
Same thing with let me just
come
on. That's the same thing with car accident.
What I'm trying to say is that every type of growth is not good growth. And on the budget day, what is required is we have limited finances. We are not a very rich country. And how we spend that money and we get maximum growth dividend. And if you invest in dairy and horticulture, you will get 5 times the number of jobs, 5 times the number of growth than any other investment on this country.
So you're saying that you want the finance minister not just to allocate more money for agriculture, but to ensure that it's better targeted.
Yes, that's right.
I'm going to take a break.
Just add one little technical clarification. When we use the word agriculture, we mean agriculture and allied activities.
Yes, I get the point.
I take
the point.